forget the name of the other sister.
Yeah, Tula was also very involved.
But she was very involved with the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and also with the fiestas.
Okay.
I think she was in charge of some of the speakers and the kids that were performing. She was very involved too. Yeah.
And quite supportive of the Catholic Church.
She was. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. One other question. A couple of more. I'm almost done here. Did you have any heroes while you were growing up in Colton? Think about that for a minute. And if you guys can chime in with any questions, we'd appreciate any of your questions. Did you have any heroes?
I myself, most of my heroes were in the sports world. I was really into sports, and some of my heroes, like especially Pancho Gonzalez.
Okay, the tennis player.
The tennis player. And most of all the other teams, the Boston Red Sox, but also, I don't know if I ever considered him my hero, but I respected him a lot, and I admired him. Was my oldest brother, Augustine, because my father died in 1936. I was 5 years old, and when my dad passed away, he left a family of 8 sons and a daughter, and Augustine was the one that took over the family, and he was the one that really raised us all, and I think he did a pretty good job. And so I would consider him one of my heroes.
Yeah, he worked at Kaiser. Kaiser. He used to work nights, because every time we went over to Rudy's house, always asleep.
He was a very hard worker.
Yeah.
In fact, he built a house right next to where we lived, and when he got married, that's where he lived.
Oh, okay.
So he was quite a man.
He was
quite a man.
There's a man you never heard him cuss or anything. Very quiet.
Didn't smoke or drink.
No.
He was a very respectable gentleman.
So he was a good role model for you then?
Yeah, he set a good example, even though we didn't follow it to the letter.
Well, you were a friend of Bobby's. So.
But I also, when during the war, when Pascual, he was in the Air Force. He was a radio operator on the B-17. He also was in what they call the ferry command. The ferry command. And when he used to come home, he'd bring all his gear, his fur jackets and everything, and big old boots, they wore when they flew. And we used to put them on. I was just a little kid. But I also respected all my other brothers. They were all good people.
Bobby, who was your hero in your time?
My favorite sport hero is Ted Williams from the Boston Red Sox. Ted Williams was born in San Diego, and he went to Hoover High School in San Diego. And his mom used to work for the Salvation Army, and his father died, when he was young. And he had a brother who turned out to be an alcoholic. So Ted Williams played for Hoover High School, which he became very good, a very good player. And when he graduated from Hoover, the Boston Red Sox picked him up and sent him here to the Pacific Coast League. He played with Spokane Ports, another team from the Pacific Coast League. And when he got there, a lot of players, they used to make fun of him because he was real skinny, tall and skinny, But he was a very good ball player. He stayed there with the Sox with the ports for about, I think only a year when the Red Sox brought him up in 1940 or 30, 1940, no, for 39. They took him up to Fenway Park. Well, he played that year, and then in 1940, the war broke up, in Germany. So he was still there. Then in 1949, before he was drafted, he was hitting. He already was hitting 400.
And he was your hero while you were growing up.
He was hitting 400, and then the last two games were going to be a doubleheader. So the owner of the Red Sox called him to his office and told him, "Dad, you already are betting 400. If you don't want to play the last games, a doubleheader, you don't have to. You already got your 400." And he said, "No, I want to play." So he went to play in a doubleheader. He got 4 hits out of 7. So he ended up with 6-4-6. And so far, that record hasn't been broken yet.
Yeah, so he was one of your heroes because you were also a very good ball player. But let me shift from there, and I should have asked this question before. Caldera, Juan Caldera, he on South 5th Street, he built a plunge, he built a baseball field, he built a bull ring, and he also built a dance hall. Tell me about Juan Caldera. You have a nice story about that.
Well, like I told you before about how he got started, ¿verdad?
A ver.
Oh, on 5th Street, before you get to Falk Street, he had a house there. And there was an empty lot right there across from where he lived. And this man that was working for him was digging a hole up there someplace, and he found some coins. I don't know if they were silver or gold coins.
Yeah. This is the story that you've heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after that, he showed the coins to Juan Caldera. And what I heard was that Juan Caldera told the guy, "Well, you better go home, it's getting late." So Caldera started digging, and he found a box of coins, whether it was silver or gold, I don't know. But he found that box of money. And I guess that's where he started building all this stuff.
Uh-huh. Where he built his baseball field, his
The
plunge,
he built the plunge.
the bull ring,
And then he had a boxing club there,
a
boxing
club.
arena.
Okay.
Where they used to have fights. And then the bull ring, and then the dance hall, what do they call it? Cup something.
Well, was the name of that swimming pool the Cubs Plunge?
Yeah,
Cubs?
Cup plunge, yeah.
So there must have been the Cubs
Hall or something.
Cubs Hall, maybe, yeah.
Cup dance floor, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then the corner of Rancho, and now on Monza Road, right there, he had that baseball field that he built, where they had ball games there too. And then he had a grocery store right in the corner of 7th and N, also that he opened. And then Caldera, did he help his brother build this building?
I don't recall that. As far as I can remember, the building was there.
Yeah.
When I became aware.
He had a brother, Cristobal.
Oh, yeah,
A Cristobal brother that had
Cristobal.
that store there across from the Sombrero Market.
Okay.
A 2-story building. In the bottom floor, he had a store where they made tortillas and all that stuff,
Okay. So anyway, that's a story about where Cabrera got his resources to build all those different.
That money that he found.
Yeah.
Well, that's the story that's been. And now, what was heard was that Joaquin Murrieta, the bandit from Mexico, at that time traveled through there, and that he had hit some money there, around that area,
Yeah.
and he never came back to collect it,
Because
Maybe
it-
that's the money that
Yeah.
Caldera found.
Could be. The story that I heard was that used to be a stagecoach depot there in that area. The stagecoach would go to Los Angeles and back, and then back to Tucson, El Paso, and that perhaps somebody from the stagecoach just buried the box there. Pero quién sabe? We have to dig some more and find out. Yeah. Now, we've been at this for 1 hour now, a little over an hour. I have one last question, and I'll ask the folks out here if they have any questions they could ask us now or about you. But my question is there anything else, down at the bottom, is there anything else that you would like to share with us regarding you growing up in South Colton?
Well, I was looking over the list here, and one thing I would like to mention is when you're talking about entertainment, the fellows there, my brothers included, Pascual, Agustin, Frank, and Angel. They were in a band. They formed a band with the Martinez boys from the bakery across the street, Nick and Baker, and they had a group, a band, and they went by the name of the Latin Lads. And they used to play all over, and in fact they used to play, because at the time when they first started, they were still going to school, high school, and they used to play for the high school at the dances. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention, that they had a band, and
they had two white guys in the band.
Yeah,
Dr. Ingo, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember Dr. Ingo, and his brother. They played with the Landless in the band.
and another question here about how the World War and the Korean conflict
Oh, thank you, Rudy. I forgot about that.
affected life in South Colton. Well, it had quite an impact on the people from South Colton, because it kind of opened up the door for the people from down there, from South Colton. In other words, the white community kind of relented a little bit and let us. It broke down some barriers. In other words, after the war, when the fellows came back from the war, they opened up the swimming pool for us, and they did away with that we had to segregated sections in the theaters. We could sit any place we wanted to. So those were, and then the jobs opened up. Before there was delivery drivers, like the bread people that used to come to South Colton to distribute the bread. It was all white. The postal carriers, the postmen, all white. Well, a lot of those jobs opened up, and the housing opened up for us, and the public places. Maybe ice cream parlor opened up for us. So that's the way that the World War and the Korean, after it was over, that's the way it affected a lot of people.
A big impact there.
It was.
That made a lot of changes in the community.
Okay, that was the only thing that I wanted to add to it.
When I worked for the PFE, it was not a shop, and everything was all but whites and Mexicans worked together. They're real nice and everything, But when that place closed down, and there were some journeymen, people that worked for the PFE, we went over to Santa Fe and got hired over there. I got hired as a regular labor, just cleaning it up and doing this and that. My brother Sal was a journeyman, Carmen plus other guys that came over there. And we couldn't believe what we saw in the Santa Fe. When we walked in there, we started seeing the restrooms. It says for white men only. In the
What year was this?
58. 58. In 58. We walked in there and then we all noticed that the restroom said white men only. And they were where they had to go to the other ones. So the guys from the PFP, they went over, they didn't care, they just started going in.
Mm-hmm.
They disregarded the signs. And at the same time, the Santa Fe would not let Mexicans or blacks go any higher than a helper. They wouldn't let them be journeyman, carmen or welders or whatever, you know. Santa Fe had an apprenticeship school for locomotive, for machinists, welders and electricians, whatever trade there was, sheet metal workers, whatever, but they would not let Mexicans or black into the apprenticeship schools. Until after, and then I asked the guys that worked there that I knew, and I asked him, hey, what the heck was going on here? Have Santa Fe always been this way? Yeah, they've always been this way.
Hmm.
But after World War II, they started, more or less opening up a little bit.
Yeah.
And they started opening the apprenticeship schools too. Because I finally went in there and I got an apprenticeship school as a carman. And then I graduated, from the apprenticeship school. And that's where I started getting many jobs. But that's what Santa Fe was.
So tremendous changes after World War II in Korea, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a couple of committee members in the audience. Mr. Henry Vasquez is part of this committee also, and Mr. Frank Acosta is part of the committee. Do you have any questions of our guests?
Something just occurred to me, maybe if they would comment about the ability to speak Spanish at school at any time period.
Could you speak Spanish?
No, we couldn't speak Spanish. It was prohibited. We couldn't speak Spanish at all.
What would happen if they caught you speaking Spanish?
I don't recall ever having punished for it or caught speaking Spanish. But at the time there was, when we were going to elementary school, at the time we didn't really speak English. It was mostly Spanish. So I know it was prohibited, but I don't recall ever having to being punished or scolded for speaking Spanish.
Bobby,
Do you remember
What?
about being able to speak Spanish in school? Do you remember that we couldn't speak Spanish? Do you recall?
In Garfield or Wilson?
Yeah, Garfield or Wilson.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spoke Spanish, out of the classrooms, But in the classrooms, mostly English. And most of the teachers at Wilson were all white. And they've been teaching there for many years on.
Yeah.
Years, I was wondering how come they never left to other schools. I guess they just enjoyed teaching Mexican kids, how to teach them. I know when my English teacher was Mrs. French, and that lady was very strict. She really taught us everything to speak English and all that, and all those teachers are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we entered high school, we spoke English pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah,
good.
because in one of your books you mentioned that none of your teachers, even though they were white, ever transferred to new schools that were opening up.
Mhm.
They all stayed at Wilson or Garfield
Yeah.
Elementary. Yeah. I also have my nephew here, Paul. Do you have any questions for our guest this morning? None? Frank? Tampoco? Well, listen.
Let me say just one more thing about these 3 books that we published.
Please, please.
Really we have to give credit to Dr. Rodolfo Serrano. He was the one that was behind the project. His main reason for doing this is because he wanted to let his kids know where he came from. Because when the kids were born, they were... But he did this so his kids would know where he had come from and what he had gone through and why he became what he became. And so I just wanted to mention that to give Rudy Serrano credit for the one that was behind these 3 books.
And you know, I had that question in there, but I forgot it. I'm glad you remembered it, saw it, Rudy. But besides that, he got you motivated
He did.
to participate in this project.
He did.
And what motivated you to participate in the project?
We thought it was a good idea. It was a good idea, and so it was Bobby, Frank Sanchez, Joe Lucero, Dr. Serrano, and myself.
Very good.
We got together and did the best we could.
How long did the project take you?
It took I would say about 2 years. Especially the last one, collecting all those pictures. It was quite a project.
Well, you certainly have to be congratulated because those 3 books are what motivated me to start working on the oral history of South Colton. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. Truly appreciate all your participation and all your help with the project. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.